What's up YouTube? Dougie Chong here. Welcome to today's episode where I'll be reviewing Airbnb stock. Alright, let's try to get back-to-back videos here. It's crazy times in the stock market right now with big tech IPOs. DoorDash IPOed yesterday and Airbnb just IPOed earlier today. For those of you that don't know what an IPO is, it stands for Initial Public Offering. And it's the first day that retail investors, just the average investor like me or you, can invest in a company. So leave a like if you want to see more of this type of video, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. All those big companies out there had big IPO dates, from Amazon to Facebook, and if you invested in any of those companies at the IPO, well, you'd be pretty rich right now. These two IPOs in Airbnb and DoorDash come at a really weird time. Before, I would have recommended buying them, or Airbnb at least, at almost any realistic price that they would have come out as. But with all the positive vaccine news, it really made the stock market overall just soar, and then the IPO price got bumped higher than it was originally going to be listed at. Airbnb was previously valued maybe around $30 billion and then got bumped to $40 billion, and I think eventually settled on $47 billion for an IPO price. So in this video, I'm going to go over a little bit of the background of the company, then I'll go into my experiences with Airbnb and other alternatives, then I'll go into the numbers and whether I think Airbnb stock is a buy in my opinion. So what exactly is the big fuss over this Airbnb IPO? Well, the big deal is that they completely revolutionized an entire industry, the hotel industry, similar to how Uber revolutionized the taxi industry. For those of you that don't know, Airbnb is a website and mobile application where hosts can rent their properties or parts of properties to others looking for short-term rentals, typically 1 or 3 days, maybe a week, but never typically more than a month. I'll start off with a bit of background of the company Airbnb. It's important to understand how a company grows from about 10 people to about the thousands of employees it has today all across the world now. It started with 2 designers who just needed a way to pay their rent. So they brainstormed and came up with this idea to make a website called www.airbedandbreakfast.com. With this website, they were amazed that they were actually able to find some willing strangers to rent some space in their apartment. This was way back in 2007. So at the time, this idea seemed absolutely crazy. I mean, why would you allow strangers into your home? Or vice versa, why would you stay at a stranger's place while traveling? The key was trust. The founders built a firm level of trust with the guests that were staying there. They acted as good hosts, and that is the mantra behind Airbnb. But nowadays, with better technology and the ability to leave reviews, people have gotten used to the idea of staying at other strangers' places. They are even willing and comfortable to get into a stranger's car. Now let's look at some of the company numbers since they don't have any price history to look at. They made $4.7 billion in revenue in 2019, but they have yet to post a profit. That is one of the risks that the company discloses in their S1 filing. They say that the company has not made profit and might not make a profit for the foreseeable future. It's crazy how a company can list will not make profit as one of the risks, and investors will still pour into it. The number one thing for investors at this point is that your company is growing and growing fast. But that's just how it is today. Grow at all costs and worry about profits later. The entire S1 document is pretty huge, and it even cost Airbnb $100,000 just to register with the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Committee or Commission, something like that. It's really crazy how much work it takes for a company to go public, but I guess that's important so that not any old company can go to the public markets. I will compare Airbnb to a ride-hailing company you may have heard of known as Uber. You might think that they're in totally different industries, but I'll show you how they are actually fairly similar and how you can compare Airbnb to a hotel type of company like Marriott. The main reason why I can't really compare Airbnbs to hotels is on the price. They are usually a lot cheaper, and it's usually my go-to to use Airbnb when I travel. It just makes a lot of sense that they are cheaper, they have a lot less amenities to keep care of, they have less employees, and they are usually in residential areas. Before, they even escaped some taxes that different hotels had to pay, but now municipalities are cracking down and collecting those taxes. A lot of cities were considering or just outright banning Airbnb, including my own city, Toronto. Toronto ultimately decided to just add restrictions for Airbnb owners. You have to register as an Airbnb owner, and then you also have to live in the dwelling that you are renting out. Furthermore, Airbnb trades for close to $150 a share today, which values the company around $100 billion, which is exactly or more or less what Uber is valued today. However, Uber made $14 billion in revenue compared to Airbnb's only $4.7 billion of revenue, so they make substantially more money than Airbnb. Of course, at this point, that just means they're taking more losses than Airbnb, but in order for Airbnb to grow to Uber's revenue size, they have to increase their revenue substantially for the foreseeable future. Now I'll talk about my experience with using the Airbnb platform and other alternatives. When it comes to hospitality, there's a wide spectrum of options, and when I was looking back over the course of my life, I have actually tried a lot of these options. I'll go from least expensive to most expensive, and at the very bottom of the list comes camping. I've opted for this method of shelter many times, especially when I'm out in the country, maybe hiking or something. Of course, if you are in an urban area, this is not exactly an option, but if you are out in the country, really consider doing camping. It'll save you a lot of money as opposed to getting one of those expensive lodges or something. I've used a lot of hostels in Europe. I used one in New York as well, but they seem to be a lot more widely accepted in European countries as opposed to North America. But really, these hostel rooms are great, especially if you're on a budget and you don't really need a lot of space. If you're just traveling on your own, then they're really good for you. After hostels come the Airbnb price level. I've used Airbnb numerous times for vacations, and I find that they are especially useful when you're looking for a cottage rental or something like a ski chalet. Without Airbnb, it would be really hard for vacationers to connect with the local hosts that are there, and the only other alternative, which I'll get to in a second, is to rent out expensive resorts. That brings me to the top tier option of hotels and resorts. Of course, within the category of hotels and resorts, there's different levels of stars, like 1 star to 5 stars, but this is generally the top tier, and even like a 2 or 3 star hotel is usually more expensive than an Airbnb. That being said, I still do use hotels and resorts from time to time. One of the main uses, and I don't see this use case going away anytime soon, is for business, especially for big conferences where you need a lot of people to gather in a big venue. That is where hotels truly shine. And generally with business trips, people just want a more premium feel. They don't want to stay in an Airbnb, they want that luxury of staying in a hotel. But sometimes, even aside from business cases, you just want a more premium feel. You want to use a lot more amenities, you want to have a lot more services available. Think about occasions such as destination weddings or other special occasions. Now let's take a look at the price. It opened here today for retail investors at around 1:45 p.m. for $146. That's more than double the IPO price of $68. Now, how do you get that IPO price? Unfortunately, you have to be one of those big banks or probably a big client of one of these big banks. And there's really no other way you can get it until you wait for the IPO date. So is Airbnb stock a buy in my opinion? Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and this is not legal financial advice. But purely based on the business model, at any valuation under maybe $300 billion, it's pretty much a buy just because it's gonna get to that level eventually. Maybe it's not the best time to buy it right now. It could dip something like 40%, but in the long run, I think it's really gonna come up, maybe hit that $1 trillion mark in the future. That is why the stock price doubled up so quickly. Investors see the future potential of Airbnb. It's really not all that hard to see. And there's really nothing stopping this company barring large regulation changes. Unlike a company like DoorDash, which has a lot of competitors, Airbnbs are virtually non-existent. Any app or would-be competitor would have to compete against Airbnb's large number of listings. Even if I were to make an app like Doug's Bed and Breakfast that was faster than Airbnb, catchier, better marketing, better UI, better everything, people wouldn't want to use it because it does not have as many listings as Airbnb. And to get a similar number of listings would be an astronomical task at this point. A competitor that I could envision entering the space is something like PadMapper, which is an app and website that looks to connect tenants to landlords. It wouldn't be super difficult for them to incorporate short-term rentals into their application and rely on long-term rentals as their core business. However, I think this would really make their website and app more confusing, and ultimately I think that's why they decided not to do it yet. Another website, couchsurfing.com, very much does the same thing as Airbnb, but as you guessed it, they charge $0 or very close to it. If hosts get fed up with the extravagant charges that Airbnb might start adding, then something like couchsurfing.com might take off with more of a donation business model to escape that business feel. Alright, now back to Airbnb. Before the IPO was listed, I was considering valuing the company at around $80 per share. That's a fair value of what I think the company is worth right now today, not pricing in future potential. Obviously now it would take a lot for the stock to come down that much. It's not impossible. Uber's stock got cut pretty much in half within a few months of its own IPO. But I really don't want to be left on the sidelines for such an amazing company. This truly is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Think something like Tesla, something like Uber. That's what Airbnb is. So I will look to start a position in Airbnb stock at around $130 or maybe even a little bit higher if it stays in this 140 region for a prolonged period of time. Let me know what you guys think of Airbnb stock in the comments below. Are you guys buying it at this level? Or are you gonna wait a bit to buy some? Or do you think there's just absolutely no future for this company? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you learned a lot about Airbnb stock. Remember to give this video a like if it helps you at all, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you in the next video.